What's up, guys? We are specialists in nothing. We're here to talk about anything and everything. My name is Frank. I'm here with Danny and Joe, as always.
What's up, Frank?
What's up, Frank? Danny, how you doing?
So we had to do a part two for for 90s nostalgia. We barely hit the tip of the iceberg. We covered a lot of topics, but not really got in depth into too much of them. So we brought our man Darren back. Darren, you want to say what's up?
Say hi, D.
Come on a train.
And ride it. Dude.
Life was good, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Now you can't
So,
even go and walk around.
Our last topic, we were talking about 90s nostalgia. This is obviously part two because, like you said, there's too much to cram into 40 or 45 minutes into it. Just like Darren, there's too much to cram 10 years into his 90s club in 45 minutes to an hour.
And they're not even listening anyways. It don't matter. They're just chilling.
They're playing their game.
Darren did the club for himself.
I'm basically a DJ with a computer, and I provide snacks because I like them. That's it.
Darren will run through Gushers like there's no tomorrow.
I'll take anybody on. Your little brother, an infant.
Ushers and Red Bull.
Darren said, after school program to get tenure that I enjoy.
Well,
No.
yeah.
All right, so let's go a little let's go a little more in depth now. So
I was gonna say, let's refresh real quick. Darren, so you made this 90s club for your after school program for your high school in Brooklyn. And you brought games, you showed movies, you listened to music, and you kind of got these kids involved with the 90s nostalgia because this is how we grew up. We loved it. And it was a good time when we were there, and we always love to reminisce and go back at it. What are some of the key points in your life where you can always feel at home in the 90s? Like, for a quick example, like when I think of the 90s, I immediately think of block parties. Summers, block parties, playing basketball in the streets, and listening to like LaBouche,
Dunk
Sweet
Tags.
Dreams, like all this type of 90s music. That's what I think of when I hear 90s automatically. So,
oh yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you said that, the instant thing that popped into my head was back in the day in Staten Island specific, those trucks that used to drive around with the rides on them.
yeah, like
It was like the little thing that like
Oh my God.
like
It was like the whip one where it would whip you. And
Yep.
the Kong one where it was like the big boat.
yeah, and there was
Going
like
up
all
and
those
down,
different
up and
ones,
down.
and like they would show up to the block parties and stuff like that. Like as soon as you said block parties, that's what I thought of. Dunk tanks,
Probably the most
stuff like
dangerous
that.
things in the world.
Oh,
There's
so
no
awesome.
seatbelts at all.
Nothing.
So, D, what are some things that you think of automatically when someone says 90s?
Well, first of all, the guy who was pushing the bar that makes the moon go, he was uncertified as fuck. No certification.
He didn't even have his driver's license, bro. He was driving the thing around.
He was basically like a golf caddy.
It was like the owner of the company's nephew at the time.
Mr. Gilmore, I'm your caddy. Okay, so when I think of 90s, when I think of 90s, right? Like legit, like a quick memory, an easily identifiable one would be similar to that. I'm at my community pool. I have all kinds of kids who are my age, who nobody has a backyard pool where I lived in particular, where I lived in South Shore. And that was fine because we all kind of came together. You hear that ice cream man coming. You hear that ice cream man sound, that's one, okay? The different ice cream bars, that's two. You can hear that at a block party just the same, but I remember my community pool, summer, it's hot, sitting in front of a radio, okay? Whether you're rocking a tape.
A boombox.
Boombox,
There
I
you
mean,
go.
whatever. My brother had a decent Iowa.
KTU was on the radio.
Just radio stations, because even that had, genre specific goodies for all. Okay. And we don't have that much anymore. Top 40 or, what is popular has blended down so much and like distilled down into like either it's a dance beat or like it's a hip hop dance beat or it's just hip hop or whatever they're calling hip hop. I'm not a big fan of current hip hop, but there were more discernible genres then, and you'd get them on different radio stations. You'd have them as different tapes that you'd buy. There was so much to treasure.
Back then, there was a lot more like similar beats. There wasn't as like nowadays. There's so many more beats that are like a lot more different like sounds and different things added into it. Whereas back then it was like the normal like type of beat, but the lyrics were all different, and that's
Right.
why it like made it more, exactly to what you're talking about.
And I'm sorry. And
Go
depending on genres, you know what I mean? Like different hip hop meant different hip hop producers. Some of the best, some of the ones who made the careers of Biggie, of Tupac, of like East Coast rap, like Nas,
Dr. Dre.
Jay-Z, and West Coast Dr. Dre. Like these are the best producers in the hip hop game
Timberland, not
Neptunes,
Dingo,
Pharrell.
Also, some of the dirtiest. I gotta say. Like you're talking about like the Suge Knights and stuff too. So you know what I mean?
I mean,
Like
the history that
so.
goes behind it is obviously sordid and insane, but we all know that. But that's another piece of the fabric of what we love. I mean, we just watched a Biggie documentary the other day. I watched it, by the way, it was good on Netflix.
Oh, you saw it, D?
Yeah, I want to. I want to see it. I haven't seen it.
See that,
I
man.
got a story to tell.
And I love Notorious, the movie too. But this is just a
that
testament
was
to what
good.
we're saying here. We watched the stuff in the 2000s, 2010s, now the 2020s, which is ridiculous to even say. That music was the starting point, you know what I mean? And it breeds, you know what I mean? It spawns all these future avenues, if you will. I mean, excuse my metaphors, but
not to like correct you, but like, because don't get me wrong, 90s was like a bigger boom into the generation, but I wouldn't say it was like the starting point, because you have like the KRS ones and like stuff like that from the 80s that were also like,
Gang.
you know what I
100%.
mean? Like that was also a lot of.
You
know
are
what I mean?
correct. No. The 90s is not the start of it all. 80s.
But it
Hip-hop was
was
born in
the
the
start
70s.
of a different, you know
This
what I
is a
mean?
large-
Like,
yes, that's
it
a
was
larger
like-
conversation. You're 100% right. 90s, I think, is the time where hip hop hit its peak.
Yeah,
and it was
yeah.
so
Oh, without
prolific
a doubt.
from many genres,
Absolutely.
right? It would be nothing without who was before it, absolutely. But they took the cue. East Coast answered West Coast by, the West Coast, NWA, all that stuff, straight out. That stuff came out first.
Mhm.
Boys in the
Late
Hood,
80s,
you know,
right,
yeah.
exactly. And then the New York scene was kind of on like, on the outs in the beginning of the early 90s, believe it or not. Then Wu-Tang came out with 36 Chambers. Then Nas came out with Illmatic. Like, these things built up, like Lauryn
No, I
Hill,
agree.
Fugees, these things built out of necessity too. You know what I'm saying? I'm
No,
not a
I
hip hop
feel you.
historian or anything.
No, I
but
no, I
that's
totally agree
100%.
with
We're
you though. I
tight
just
team.
wanted to make that distinction because exactly I wanted you to
Yeah,
break
we're
it down like that, because when I feel like you're talking about like as hip hop in general,
Right.
and you're talking about through the decades and whatever, like if you're talking like a 1 to 10 scale, like the 80s was like 7 to 8, 90s was like 9 to 10, and then 2000s went back down to like 7 or 8, and then like now it's just keeping kind of gone down. But I feel like in that rotation of like every 30 years of things wrapping back around, like in the next 10 years or so, it's going to start to take that climb back up, because there's only anywhere it can go from there. You know what I mean? Like
Maybe.
hip
I hope
hop is just
so.
not, like I said, not where it was at all in like 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Joe, let me ask you something. On your,
What, Danny?
I know that you and I, we're big into EDM. We like that dance music and shit. That stuff obviously stemmed from our 90s dance era. I mean, Darren as well, like Deborah Cox, all that good
Yeah,
shit.
man.
Junior Vasquez, Jonathan Peters, those type of remixes of vocal house music. That shit is, it's still, what is it? It's mainly like early
Mashups.
2000s. It's early 2000s.
I started with Tiesto got me into
Tiesto.
everything, bro.
He came out more 2000s, but everything you're talking about is
Who?
definitely mid 90s to late 90s.
Tiesto.
Into the
Who the hell
2000s.
is Tiesto?
Yeah.
Get into Tiesto. Anyways,
that?
I saw 4.
Especially his beginning stuff, like Kaleidoscope, that
Yeah.
album, which was a little after the 90s, but oh god.
Search of Sunrise.
So- Search of Sunrise. That's right. So, Joe, a lot of our good, we have common music. We like the same shit. A lot of our taste in music stems from that. Do you think now, like when we hear a new song that has a sample from the 90s, do you feel like that brings you back to where you were?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And me personally, I like the song 100 times better when there's a sample from anything, cartoon, a movie, or
Okay.
anything from the 90s.
Or are you upset that they're touching it and they should just leave it alone?
Nah, when it comes to music and they're just throwing a sample and making and having fun with it, you know what I'm saying? It's different.
Yeah.
When it comes to like a remake, as far as like a movie or rewriting a cartoon with different characters, I think they need to leave that stuff alone, man.
All right.
I think they take way too much of a step and it comes out horrible.
So you're saying if you're gonna remake a movie from the 90s, like we mentioned in part 1, Jumanji, for instance, right?
I don't think they should do it at all.
All right, so I'll agree with you on that. I
But
think
see, you
that
don't think even certain ones, like, because there's some movies that I think
But
that
like
they
the
did
movie
that were good.
Jumanji, they remade it. They didn't. It was such a completely different movie. They didn't even
Yeah.
need to call it Jumanji. They
they
could
could
have
have called it something else.
made it a completely
I'll
different
agree
movie
with
and
you
gave
on
it a
that.
different
Yeah.
name. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They didn't have to totally
I
take a shit on Jumanji.
Well, for
I
that
think
one in specific,
producers
but
and
there
people
was
from Hollywood-
there was
Go ahead,
other movies. No,
Especially that's a Robin Williams movie. You don't do
Shouldn't have
that.
touched it.
yes, no,
You just
exactly.
don't do that.
But that's what. But there's other ones, no, that you don't think that like that they remade and that they did do
Can you
justice to.
Give me can you give me?
Yeah,
an
give me
example?
an example. Like what?
Oh well, now that you put me on the spot, I don't know.
No, I mean I don't know. Yeah,
I'm
like,
just saying, Joe, like what you said before about not having to name it Jumanji. what the people in Hollywood, in my opinion, are trying to do is they're trying to get our entertained minds and be like, oh shit, Jumanji remake, let's go check it out, and they'll hope that we'll go there, where we don't want to see that shit because we like
because
the original.
They like to take anything that had any big relevance back in the day. Like Jumanji was such a big thing. Even now, today, the original Jumanji is such a big deal. The board game,
better.
the movie's still a classic. Kids could still watch it and relate now.
Got
And it's
massive
like,
appeal.
right, and it's appealing. And it's like, oh, 90s retro. Anything retro is like becoming a thing nowadays.
Right.
You know what I mean? Retro clothing, retro games, everything's being remastered.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, let's take a movie that was still popular to this day and give it a remake because people know about it and it's a newer version, so everybody's gonna like it. It's not always the case.
Well, this is where I'm trying to get at, and I guess Frank, you could throw your opinion on this too, obviously, D. But
I'm sorry.
for a
I'm
movie,
sorry,
when it comes down to it, it's like I don't want to see a classic being touched. I don't necessarily love the Disney live animation, the live versions of it. I'm big on the
Really?
original. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's Aladdin, Lion King, I like that animated shit. Came out in the 90s. It meant something to me in the 90s. And when I see it in the movies now being rebooted or remade, I'm like, I'm not really about it. But when it comes to songs and music, like, the song, obviously, Show Me Love by Robin. You've got to show me love.
Yeah.
That shit was fire back in the day. Then, who was it? Swedish House Mafia or Avicii? Somebody came out.
Steve Angelo. Yeah.
Steve Angelo.
Angelo. He's from Swedish House Mafia, though, right?
He came out with that fire remix.
Laid Back Luke. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That killed it. That was.
I just feel like it's different with music, bro. You got to figure a song is only like 3 minutes to 5 minutes long, especially when it comes to a house song. So it's like, to hear a couple minutes of it and like somebody twist it up, remix it, with that same vibe still, it's exciting. It's different. It's on and it's over within 4 minutes.
Even
Joe, to your point.
I'm
sorry, Frank. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say to Joe's point with Danny's example of Robin S. Steve Angelo and Laid Back Luke didn't actually change the song. They kind of kept the bass, which everybody's always loved, which is still a classic. And that's a really good example. It's an easy example because that one is such a classic anyway. That one's never going anywhere. Kids in my 90s club heard that song like, whoa, I know this. I'm like, you better or you didn't. But they did. Okay. But you did. They tweaked that one, but then they might take a sample of an old song, make new songs, because sampling has been around forever. That's a hip hop thing specifically. Right. And then they might reboot a movie or a TV show like Saved by the Bell series or The Lion King. And just because it's CGI, to me, that has mass appeal because of the current world, because that's what kids will dig because it's new. Right. We don't like it because maybe we don't like it. I don't know about you, Frank, but there's nothing touching Lion King.
That's what I was going to bring up. So like, I kind of stopped talking for a second because I was kind of like looking up like a couple things because he kind of put me on the spot, and I'm not good with stuff like that, like I always say. But he's right. Like, so I was looking up like 90s movies that were rebooted that like were good, and like anything that was on the list like was not like a fan. Like last time we talked about it, I said Beauty and the Beast, so I didn't want to bring that up again as like the example. But I guess that was really like one of the only reboots that like I really thoroughly enjoyed like that, because honestly, a lot of the other ones, like I really didn't like. But even before we talked about this,
were rebooted of movies that were rebooted.
Yeah. Oh well, no, I closed out of it now, but I was looking them up.
Cool. Good job.
My bad.
Frank,
I'm just saying,
doing his research.
I was trying to look it up to prove a point against you, and I'm saying that your point was correct. So, but anyway, before we were talking about this. I don't do that often, so you better take it. But anyway, so before we were talking about this, I will still say and admit that music generally with the reboots and stuff like that is always, yes, better, and TV shows and movies as a whole, definitely not. But there was one just recently, Fat Joe just came out with a new song. I forgot what it's called, but it just recently came out, and it had like the old school beat on it, and I was like, oh shit, like same thing, same type of feel. Love like talking about like when you hear something come on and you're just like, it gives you like that blast from the past feel. Yeah. And I heard it on the radio the other day, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of my new summer jams.
You know what's crazy though? Like, all right, so you bring up Fat Joe, and then when you brought up Fat Joe, I automatically thought of Terror Squad, and then the beef with like 50 Cent and Ja Rule and all that shit. And it's like
I didn't like Fat Joe back then, but I do now.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry to interrupt that, but I just like
back.
Everyone's
Yeah,
got
see,
their
like I didn't
fast,
like
so,
that
back,
type of Fat
right.
Joe. Like I actually was more on the 50 Cent side of that like whole thing.
As
But
was
like
I.
nowadays, hearing Fat Joe, like he's like one of the OGs. Like, you know what I mean? You can't like not throw it to him. Like, because if
Right.
Big Pun was still alive, you'd be saying that about him. But like after
So
whatever
this is what I'm
happened, you have
getting
to
into,
like,
like,
you know what I mean?
there was the beef between like 50 Cent, Ja Rule, Eminem, and like Fat Joe and all them and shit like that. But before that, it was the Biggie and Tupac beef, East Coast, West Coast. But before that, this is gonna sound kind of crazy and like totally white, but you remember when it was either you were an NSYNC lover or a Backstreet Boys lover?
That wasn't
yeah.
before.
I was
Biggie
totally
It was the
Backstreet
same
Boys.
era.
Same, bro.
No,
Yo,
but you're like, but before
little
that, it was
hidden
like
fact.
No, but
1900s,
Ready for this?
dude,
in sync and Backstreet Boys.
Not many
I
people
was
know
listening to
this.
Backstreet Boys.
Wait, not
Hold
many
on,
people
hold
know
on.
this,
I
but
was
I'm gonna
listening
throw
to-
this out there right now for the show,
Dude.
and I don't even care. My first concert that I ever attended ever was for my sister's Sweet 16. I was 12 years old,
Spice
and like I
Girls.
couldn't stay home, so my family took me with them for my sister's birthday. It was the
Yeah,
Backstreet
sure.
Boys, and it was when like the larger than life, like the Millennium album came
Probably
out.
incredible.
Bro, they came out on strings and like these hoverboards, like
Oh
over the
my
crowds at the
God.
stage. It was like one of the
Fire.
coolest concerts ever. I'm not even gonna front. I'm not even gonna bullshit with you. It was dope. I was 12. My sister was 16. She's there with like 4 of her friends and my mom and her boyfriend. And I was having a dope ass time. I'm not
Hell
even
yeah,
gonna
bro.
lie.
Oh, I'm not
And that
saying
was my first
before
concert
Tupac and
ever.
Biggie. I'm saying before I was listening to Tupac and Biggie, I was listening to Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Spice Girls and Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears.
Are
There
you
was
kidding
beef
me?
between
You don't have to
them.
lie.
Yeah.
You listen to it all together. It's okay.
I listen to all that shit all the time. It's just
Wait,
more feel
so
good
hang on.
nonsense.
It's
I
a
just have to-
cardigan, but thanks for noticing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I actually found it, so I just have to bring this back real quick. This is the song I was talking about. It's called Sunshine.
Jay-Z Sunshine?
No, this is the new.
This is the new one, right?
The
This is
new
the
Fat
new.
Joe song.
Oh.
But that beat is so 90s that when I heard it, I was like,
I gotta hear it.
Can't hear anything.
Can you hear that?
That's been sampled a lot already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
that's
a-
what I'm
more than one
saying.
sample in
That's like
there.
an old beat. That's like, you know what I mean? When I heard it on his song, I was like, oh shit,
There's a
I know
70s
this. I've
sample in
heard this
there. How do you
before.
like that?
When you said sunshine, I thought you were talking about LFO. It's like, will you steal my sunshine? baby?"
That's Len.
Len.
Oh,
That's
see,
what it
no.
was. What
When
is
I
it?
hear
LFO?
Sunshine, I
But he
think of the
says
Lloyd
LFO
song.
in the song, doesn't he?
No, LFO talks about in Summer Girls. He talks
Summer
about
Girls.
things.
That's what it is. I got that shit. Fuck.
Rich Cronin, yo, he's got a great Howard Stern interview, by the way. He talks about all the boy bands and how all the sordid shit that Lou Pearlman made them do, who was like the main record executive who found all of them in Orlando. Crazy.
Okay.
Rich
When
Cronin.
I hear Sunshine, I think of the Lloyd song, like, you know, Sunshine, I can call you my baby.
Yeah, but that's like 2004, 2006.
No, I know, but I'm
That
just
was a
saying
lot of
that's what I
good
think
shit, though.
of.
Like, I like till this day, I have 2 fucking giant cases of CDs that I can't listen to anymore because I don't have my car doesn't take CDs. It's all MP3
Oh, like the
or
4
phone or
CD
Bluetooth.
per page,
Like
like
the CD
binders that like with the
books.
zipper. Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel you.
and,
No,
dude, it's like the ones where it's the 4 CDs per page, and you flip it, you get the other 4 on the behind it.
Mhm.
I have 2 fat ass books of those
Mhm.
chilling. Joe, I'm actually
Dope.
gonna bring those over to show
the
you
best
soon.
the
Please,
best
that'd be
people
great.
like my sister had in one of her cars is when you had like under the seat you had like the special CD player that had like the 10 disc in it, and it was like the cartridge you take out that had
And
like
it's
the little
connected to the
slots,
shit?
and you could like put like the 10 different CDs and slide it under the fucking.
Okay, Richie Rich.
But I'm just no joke. My sister had it, bro. Like her boyfriend got it
I
in
know
her
it
car,
exists. I didn't.
and like, bro, she used to have like 10 different CDs, and she would push the thing under her seat, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" And like, she's like, "Don't worry about it." And then she could change CDs on her radio. I was like, that was dope when that came out.
This was fire, yo.
You were
'cause
the shit if you had that.
hell yeah, bro. It went from mixtapes, like we said earlier,
Next level.
the cassettes where you got to record it off the TV, and then you had Napster, LimeWire, Kazaa. You downloaded your fucking songs. You made CDs and mixtapes and shit. So mixtapes were originally cassettes. Then they turned to mixtape CDs where you could put whatever you want on there because you could download them, give them to your friends, give them to your girls, whatever they felt like, and then just became more of like an MP3 type of thing as time went on. You know, you could have up to 250 songs on it, and now it's just strictly Bluetooth. Whatever you have on your iTunes, your iMusic, your Spotify, it's just all right there in the palm of your hand. And people these days, they won't recognize the struggle of what it was like, you know. And I just think it's crazy. Like music in the 90s will always be, for me, something that I look back on when I'm so let's say if you're down and out and you listen to something from the 90s, you could genuinely feel a lot better about it, whether it's Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, even fucking Christina Aguilera,
Louis Vega, Mambo
Louis
number
Vega.
5.
The Macarena,
Mambo
dude, the
number
Macarena will forever be played at sweet 16s and weddings.
But that's one to me that when I hear it, I'm like, like Macarena, I'm like, but Mamba number 5, if that came on, I'd be like, oh shit, Lou Bega.
You were jamming, right? You knew all the names too.
Yeah, hell yeah. But like, I don't know, Macarena was one that, like, I guess for me just kind of like got played out a little bit. But
they all did.
Yeah.
They all did. And you know what it is? It's their feel-good songs to us because nostalgia dictates that. That's one. Okay, because I have a friend who would tell me, like, you just love those songs because of nostalgia, which is not untrue. It's true, but they had more melodies than pop songs do now. Some might think that Taylor Swift is like the best thing in pop because that's what they grew up on. You know what I mean?
Love Taylor Swift.
But you're not talking as many different first-time boy bands hitting it, like not the Beach Boys and Beatles of the 60s, because they're the real boy band, or like if you want, like they're the root of the, like the chain of boy bands over the music evolution of music. You know what I mean? Rock and roll, guy groups, girl groups, things like that, But the 90s were something different that weren't done before. Exactly. I mean, New Kids on the Block exists in the 80s, New Edition. They were groups, of course.
Yeah.
But it got, like you said earlier with hip hop, Frank, the 90s took things and things got a lot more elevated genre-wise, I feel. And they made a lot more money, a lot more exposure. Things changed.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean? So I think there's relation to it.
No, even the same thing, like how we were talking about too, like movies and TV shows, and like there's not like, because movies obviously, like, and don't get me wrong, movies nowadays have like so much better like special effects and certain things like that, but like the storyline, the like acting, the certain things of a movie like back in the 90s or even like the 2000s and stuff was like way better, and like you said, like the peak of it, to whereas before and like now not as good. Whereas like nowadays I feel like TV shows are thriving, TV shows and series are like thriving, but movies as a whole,
no,
like you said, they
they're
kind
more
of
of a
went through
cash
everything
grab now. They're
They
more
went-
of a cash grab.
yeah,
They want
like they
mass
went-
appeal, audience friendly, downloadable, Netflix, whatever.
there's like
straight
the
to
rare one
Netflix.
that comes out that's like good, don't get me wrong. Like
Yeah.
I saw one the other day that came out, I guess it came out last year. It was with Mark Wahlberg and Bryan Cranston, and or not Mark Wahlberg.
What movie?
Oh my god, I forgot the. She's not even here anymore. I forgot the name. I forgot what it was. I'm sorry. I'm fucked up now. I'm drunk. I'm drunk. But
Deep
no,
throat and cyclones.
it was Bryan Cranston, and he's a Oh no, it was
Kevin
Bryan
Hart.
Cranston and Kevin Hart. Yes, that's what it was. He's a paraplegic, and Kevin Hart is like his caretaker. Sorry, that took me a minute. But yeah, and Kevin Hart, it was like one of his first serious roles that I've ever seen him play, first of all, and it was a great movie. But that's like one of the rarities. Whereas like back in the day, like you said, you got My Cousin Vinny, The Bronx Tale,
Cousin
fucking.
Vinny.
Oh, dude, like just so
Different
many that there
time.
was
My
so
Cousin
many
Vinny's
like
so
that you
good.
still quote to this day that like,
Right,
you know what I
but
mean? Like
Like
I'm not gonna
Darren
lie
said,
though, there's some of them that I quote that there's some kids that are out there that just be like, what was that from? And I'm
Some
like,
kids?
you fucking
There's a lot of
kidding me? And that's when
My
I
whole
feel
life
old.
is movie quotes. They don't know anything.
Yeah, like I hate it. Like but see, for you it's different because when you're at work, you're with teenagers, stuff like that. Like even me, like I was working the construction. I now switched and I'm like at Amazon and whatever. But even still, like with any of the people that I see at work, like sometimes when I make jokes or like this and that, like they're like, huh? And I'm like, oh fuck
Over
you.
the
You
head.
make me feel old,
Right.
you fucking 20-year-old. Like
Well,
it
what's
just
crazy-
sucks.
you brought up about like rarities and shit a minute ago and TV shows, and I'm thinking now a lot of this stuff that's on TV it's all reality shows.
No,
a
That's
lot of
what I
it-
do, yeah.
A
No
lot
way.
of it stems from MTV and VH1, where it had like
No.
Laguna Beach and Rune Raiders and shit like that.
Pop-up video.
Pop-up
There is a
video.
lot of
reality,
reality
but amazing.
TV and stuff
Right.
like that to where
So
it
get
started
back
from
at,
there,
like,
but no.
TRL is where it came together, because if you wanted to hear the hottest shit of the week or the top 10 videos, 20 videos, you would tune into MTV.
TRL was money.
You would watch the top
Carson
Daly. You would watch the top 20 videos of the week, and what I hated personally is they would only show like a clip of it and they'd go back to like the fucking somebody in the audience and blah blah blah. Nobody gives a shit about that. I want to see the video. But like back then when they actually played music videos, that's when music television was at its peak. Now it's all reality shit. You can barely find MTV unless you go to MTV2 where they're playing music videos at night. Same thing with VH1. They don't play that shit anymore, you know?
That's not true though. Like There's actually plenty of
What?
other stuff that's on now that's not just reality TV. There was a period where like 2000s, 2010s and stuff where there was reality TV, Real World, all that stuff,
Boom of it,
Jersey
yeah.
Shore, like all that stuff like hit and like
Boom.
whatever. But right now, like no, there actually is a lot of actual regular TV that's out that's not just reality TV. That's plenty of stuff. I mean, like I can't think of it in specific, but like because my sister's very big on MTV and she watches a lot of stuff from there, and she's always telling me and
Yeah,
stuff.
but it's like Teen Mom, My Super Sweet 16. That
I
shit
mean, I know those
like
are out, but like,
Yeah.
they're because I guess like the Real World Road Rules Challenge is reality too, and like stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
know there is other shows that are out there like besides that, and not just because I didn't realize at first when you were gonna say that you were gonna go just with the MTV and like whatever, because I was gonna say like TV in general, it's not all reality TV because you have shows like Lucifer, All American, like there's so many shows that aren't reality TV. But I didn't realize you were just talking about that channel in specific.
I
But
mean,
there are
we were talking
other
about
shows
music,
that
so that's
aren't
why
just.
I kind of got into it.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
But like, all right, so like I guess not necessarily on a reality type of thing, but America's Funniest Home Videos for me was fucking hilarious. When that shit came on, and I would sit down, my sister, we watched America's Funniest Home Videos, dude, I would laugh my fucking ass off. And I would wait. We'd all be like, "Oh, we should put that on America's Funniest Home Videos." Oh,
I remember that and Cops was like always playing on my
Why are you so
television.
sweaty?
Cops is a good show. No, All American, or I mean, America's Funniest Home Videos was another one that like put on the map too for like ridiculousness, Tosh.0, like
Yeah.
things
Home
like
videos,
that like came out. It was
shit.
like another one that like started on the map to see exactly like funny stuff from home clips that like average Joe people could get on TV for a second and like whatever. Because that's why America's Funniest Home Videos got so big back in the day. It was the first show that ever came out on TV and like a public platform where the average Joe person could send in their video from home that was something that was funny or whatever, where millions of people could see, because millions of people at that point could only see famous people's stuff and like whatever, because you didn't have like, the internet and stuff was still coming out and like whatever in the 90s. So it wasn't like streaming and like getting viral and stuff like that. Like nowadays it was like different. It was just coming out. So like to get big like that on America's Funniest Home Videos, if you got your video in there, you were big time. If you're on Tosh.0 right now or Ridiculousness, it's not as big as it was for America's Funniest Home Videos. Again, another peak thing that like started out the platform to where other things branched off of for nowadays. You know what I mean?
And honestly, those videos everybody thought was so funny back in the day. We all laughed our asses off. The reality is the videos now, they're just more accessible and they're done more by teenagers, and the shit has just gotten dumber. Americans and people of the world love dumb shit. I love Jackass. That's a perfect example of that. But at least I think those guys are light years funnier because you got personalities in there, not just like kids on TikTok. You know what I mean? It's like everything has just become like accessible to all to dangerous levels, I think. And that's where it's gone. That's where technology's going. But you're right, though. Back in the day, it was a big deal to get featured on there because you're tuning into a TV no matter what to watch a show. You're going to the movies to watch a movie. You're renting it if it's possible at Blockbuster. There were limits to, and I think more appreciation to the access to this content. Now it's everywhere. And just like I said last episode, with the paradox of choice of having Netflix, Disney Plus, now Paramount Plus is coming out. They just want more money to make you get more streaming services. So you get obviously more money. You pay more money. They get richer and you get more content that you desperately want. So I rock DVDs when the fuck I want.
So wait, so
I have all that shit.
like going back to like the club and like stuff like that. Do you talk about like stuff like this with them? Like when you're like talking about the club and like this and that, like
talk
compared
about what?
To like
Exactly.
well, like I'm saying, like compared to like movies, TV shows, compared to now, like back in the day, and like exactly like what we're talking about now. Is this stuff that like you talk to them about? Like
definitely,
because you said like they play board games, you play music and stuff, but like, do you also talk to them about like this time? Like you get real with them about like this type of stuff too?
Absolutely, yeah. Frank, to answer your question, I walk around. You know what I mean? I'll play the games with them. I'll talk to them, be like, guys, I'm gonna give you a scene of like when I'd be playing this game, what would be on the radio. I'll give them a year because I'm crazy with years and stuff and like recollection.
So specific when
it's like my Rain Man thing, you know what I mean? My photographic memory wise, right? My dorky, like nonsense, useless facts. I'll give them a year. I'll give them what was on TV at the time. I'll tell them how many different shows they had to choose from. I'll tell them they only had a phone if internet was even
13 channels.
Dial up. I did the sound Joe did before. That whole thing, right? Okay. I'll tell them Jim Carrey was hilarious. I paint a picture for them and show them the differences. I've shown them videos what AOL was like and showed them that when I was your age, this was still huge before Facebook, was just for colleges. And then
MySpace
before social media came out. Right. And like MySpace was, there, and Facebook was in its infancy and the internet was still on the rise. I talk about all the differences just to let them know,
But so sorry, like my mind is like kind of going different places. Like I said, I'm a little fucked up, but like we were talking about MySpace like way back when we talked about social media.
And like talking about it, Specials to Nothing, shout out.
and talking about it right now, like I'm just thinking about like how you said shout out like you weren't on my top 8. Is that like the brink of like causing the controversial like, oh, you were on my top 8, like I was judging you to be the most popular, to be like social media bullying, to this, that? Did it start like the stem of like all that stuff like unintentionally?
Social lists, you mean? Like lists?
Like who was popular, who was not, like social depression, or like being popular, like
the equivalent to having 10 likes to somebody who has 400 likes.
Exactly, like being verified,
instant
being an influencer. Yeah, exactly. Like all of that stuff. To how now, like you said, like now people are a short attention span, like this and that, like all that type of stuff. Like, was that like the brink of it? Like, because exactly, like starting like that, like you were worried about certain things that didn't fucking matter.
It was exposure to it, I think. Definitely. It was definitely a small form of exposure. I
like the unintentional start, like, what I mean?
Well, or definitely an intentional one, but not that us Americans realize this, your average consumer of it. And then when it just became more common, you start subscribing to it. Hey, I want a Facebook page. I want to see whose birthday it is. And then I want to refresh my page. I think when the news feed came out, it was all over. That was me, because then everybody's really addicted, waiting for the next thing, waiting for the next update. Even if it doesn't apply to you, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Oh,
you gotta watch A Social Dilemma on Netflix. It's amazing. It's bug out and it's real.
Oh yeah, great movie.
Yeah, it's excellent.
No, yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, D, you've been a teacher for how long?
Oh my god,
5 years.
5 years.
I'm sorry, like I'm playing music in the background, like 90s stuff, and Hanson just came on. Bop,
my sister loved
Hanson.
That was her shit.
Shit,
that was her shit.
Quagmire thought
like
they were girls on Family Guy. He's like, I have posters, I have magazines. Oh god,
Shout out to Deborah.
Cause we were talking about like boy bands and stuff, like like Backstreet Boys and like NSYNC, but like we didn't even talk about like Hanson, like 98 Degrees. Like, what about all those like sub like boy bands that like didn't really hit? You know what I mean?
So based on what you guys just both talked about, let's for a second here. Fucking posters. How many posters did you have all over your room? Specials of Nothing posted behind Frank right now. Thank you very much. Shout out.
I don't know. The yellow square is not over me, so nobody has seen it.
Well,
hey, there it is.
I had a healthy mix of every Carmen Electra poster ever.
Yes.
And every Porsche poster ever.
What boy did not have a Carmen Electra poster on the back of their door?
It was like American Pie 2. It's like Dad, it's dinner. It's like, I'm not hungry. Like, it's like all that.
Nah, I had like Stacey Keebler, Victoria Wilson, like Show Me Them Puppies.
Joe, I gotta say something. Honestly, from knowing you for 12 plus years now, I do feel like you were the type of person that would have either like a Carmen Electra poster with like, or a schoolgirl skirt lifted up.
The schoolgirl with the skirt in the back, holding the books, looking back with the glasses on.
With the pencil
right next
in
to
her
his
mouth.
Limp
But you
Bizkit.
have the Brianna Banks. Do you have the Brianna Banks, Jenna Jameson?
No, I was Jennifer Love Hewitt all day.
Wow.
Oh yeah, Danny's a big Jennifer Love Hewitt fan.
So
that's the one from I Know What You Did Last summer, right?
Sam Rochelle Gellar.
She was my favorite too.
This is this out
I
real
like
quick.
Jennifer Love Hewitt too. She was such a little
she was
hottie.
my queen.
Such a little
Listen,
hottie.
When I was younger, I was at Spencer Gifts in the mall, and I bought 2 posters. Okay, one of them was it was a picture of like 5 schoolgirls. They were all obviously they were adult schoolgirls, but in school uniforms, and they were sexy as fuck in like lingerie with these little skirts. And I'd hang that up, but over that, I would put a picture of like a movie poster of like Armageddon or something kind of crazy, like Goodfellas or Scarface, and I put it over it, and I pinned the 2 corners. And I would post it over it so that when I wanted to look at
he would Andy Dufresne it from Shawshank. He'd be building the hole at night and then escaping 20 years later when Tom went downstairs.
I would tape the first one on the wall, and then I would tape the second one over it, but I would loosely leave the bottom 2. So I would just pin the top I'm sorry, I pinned the two bottom.
You're
pants to
shot.
the top.
For
Bro,
real.
that's what I would do. You look, bro. Stop. All right, because you did the same thing. I feel
No.
it in your soul.
No, I straight up had my shit on the back of my
I know.
door.
I
So
would post that.
nobody could see it, and when I wanted to close my door, I'd close my
Wow.
door, and then boom, they were right
See,
there.
not even
See,
that.
no,
I don't know if
that's
like I
ridiculous.
just had a
I'm 10
cool
years old,
mom.
11 years
I
old.
didn't post up my 50 Cent poster over my freaking schoolgirl posters.
I did, bro. I was
Yeah.
11 years old. I bought nudie magazines and I brought them home. And like, what are you gonna
See,
do?
not
You just-
nudie
Shampoo is
magazines, but, like,
better.
You're not just gonna leave that shit out there.
I did.
Yeah.
My
No,
parents.
that's what I'm saying. No, I don't know if I just
Right?
Absolutely.
Back then, there wasn't even porn back then. There was Playboy.
Yeah.
That was your form of
Yeah,
pornographic
it was
material.
like softcore porn. It wasn't like
Who didn't
I
have
was
a
on the
Who didn't have a
poster
Playboy
kid.
fucking?
it was
guys
like the
had
girl
fucking-
like holding her arm over her like nipples, but showing you like the like yeah, it was like
and then you had Hustler, who really just
yeah that
they were
yeah.
freaking. They had everything all out right on the on the
Everything up.
No, but
cover of the
I don't-
magazine.
I don't know if I just had like a cool mom or like what, but yeah, I'm like, I mean, kind of like Joe, but a little bit
Why did
like
she buy you new socks every other week?
ha ha ha.
Dude,
No, but I
I'm
mean,
not
like
Frank's
honestly,
mom would buy him a Playboy.
No, but like not even that. I just like I had like pictures of like different posters of like exactly like chicks with like different risque like whatever photos, and then like my bands and like it's not like I had different stuff on my walls, but like that's what I was into. That's what I put up like as a teenager. Like she never really like said anything about my room. Like I don't know.
Well, lucky you, man.
I mean, I was always like good about keeping my room clean and like this and that, so there's really no reason for her to like come in there and like yell at me. But like unless I was playing video games at like 2 a.m. to go to sleep. But like other than that, that's pretty much it. Like I mean, I don't know.
I want to get back to what I meant to ask you before. So he's been a teacher for 5 years, and I guess being a teacher and then comparing it to when you were a kid, I noticed that there's not a lot of playgrounds, not a lot of kids hang out in the schoolyard, and nobody's, you're not even allowed to play dodgeball in gym anymore. How do you feel growing up with having all of these?
Wait, you're not allowed to play dodgeball in gym anymore?
No, you're not allowed to play dodgeball.
Probably not.
Since when?
It's like
Too
years ago.
physical.
Yeah.
I played dodgeball with my 3-year-old in the living room with like the rubber little basketball that's to her freaking Pikes,
Okay,
like
that's
whatever
different. That's
play
not
school
Department
set.
of Education approved, Frank.
I mean, I peg her all the time. Like, is that bad to say? Like, I mean, she throws it back. I play fucking.
Pegs his daughter.
No, but not even like
The
same thing,
dodgeball.
like even with, like
Girls
pillows and like
get
it's not like.
that's different.
Yeah.
Well, listen. Well, that's.
I mean,
what
I'm not saying it's hard stuff. Like it's like
No.
soft, but like.
Yo, D, are you not allowed to play dodgeball in gym at fucking
Really?
school anymore?
I-
Is this
I
a
don't know
thing?
I don't know for sure. I think that probably is the case, though. I think it's been for a long time. You're not going to see that as much at like in a high school setting, maybe in a
In
junior
Brooklyn.
high.
What do kids do in gym class these
Real.
days?
This is
All
what
There
I'm
is
asking.
no
Do they
active
play-
like there's no like there is literally so much preventive injury that like I'm sorry whatever happened to like rubbing a little dirt on it and moving it on like I
That's
like
the
not to
case
say it like that or
anymore.
like
They don't-
being sensitive like to be like that for every situation, but like there's certain times where like I'm sorry like kids do need to like expose to like taking a bike off a fucking ramp and like eating
taking
dirt,
yeah.
Taking
You know what I
normal
mean?
life
Or, like,
risks, yeah, and not being exactly
taking a
look,
dodgeball to the face or like
They don't
I
play
don't know
kickball
like
anymore either.
like
Yeah.
because I'm sorry like if it's a kid versus a kid it's not like it's like that much force, you know what I mean? Like they need to experience that stuff. I'm sorry, that's just taken away from them and depriving them to me.
Well, look, I mean, I agree with you 100% because I'm all about the tangible old school experiences. And there are younger kids who I see at least on Staten Island when I drive
No
around and
biggie.
stuff. They do these things. As far as high school kids in a more urban area, you're not going to see it as much. So I can't speak to that because I'm not a gym teacher. I do know several, but I don't know to the extent of what they do. As far as some of them do, like, more weightlifting classes and not just weightlifting like we had in high school, like just all boys or all girls weightlifting, stuff like that. There's that. When I was in high school, we had football, basketball gym as an option.
Right.
Like you play football in the fall, basketball in the spring. I don't even know if they still do it like that. Not to say they took it away, but the actual structure and logistics of these things, I think it might be changed. It doesn't mean they're taken away. Physicality is still needed. It's physical education still there. Gym class is still up and going, but it's been altered to touch on different things more that exceed just like, the old school sports we used to do and maybe the activities. Dodgeball probably isn't one of them anymore. I'd I think it's safe to say, but I don't know.
I mean,
They're
even
probably
with like
lacking
other
physical content.
Younger
even with,
kids
like,
still
other
playing
sports,
playground.
I was just about to say that lacking physical contact, because even like with other sports, like there's so many even professional sports like NFL and this and that like have like changed rules to like lack certain physical contact. Like, don't get me wrong, I get certain things like the helmet to helmet in football and like things like that, but there's like
Yeah, that
certain
causes
like
concussions, Frank.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm get certain things like that, but there's certain things that have come into like hockey. Like, there's literally no more Bash Brothers anymore because like they don't really allow that shit anymore. They don't
You're talking
allow
about-
It's
like back in the
cultural
90s.
shift.
I'm sorry, it was big to have somebody on your team that wasn't really that great at hockey, didn't really pass, didn't really shoot, didn't really whatever, but just fucking checked people because it was like putting in fear into their star's eyes, the star shooter of like whatever. Okay, he got
You're
checked
talking
by
about
the
rites
biggest,
of
baddest
passage,
person.
right? You're talking about old school, time honored rites of passage that
And
the
there's-
world thinks is too rough, and things are now. I mean, cultural shifts have happened, and that those things fell by the wayside. You're right. You're not
Yeah.
gonna see that anymore. Even though that's a Disney movie, you're not even gonna see that level of like acceptability with
Like, that's what I'm saying,
the
like,
Bash
exactly.
Brothers anymore.
Like
You're
the
not
Goon,
getting that.
like
Bye-bye.
exactly like them and
That's a
Goon,
Disney movie.
like the movie Goon, with Sean William Scott, like
Yeah.
perfect example of that. You know what I mean? Like that's not around anymore. But these are the things that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's why I was asking. Like, these are the things like you talk about this with like the kids at like club
Right.
and like whatever. Like
depending with not as much with the sports. I'll talk about like big sport figures, major events, but I'm not going to sit there and tell them about like Yankees won the 96 World Series and I went ape shit like at the time, you know what I mean? Because like they don't really care as much. If they're not, I was just happy they're not sitting here tuned into this the whole time. I was actually seeing them function like kids who didn't know what the internet was for 45 minutes. That to me was more of the marveling point. You know what I'm saying? We built on that. And I only did this for about 6.5 months to maybe 7 months. I didn't get to do it for a full year. I will revisit it again. So I'll probably have even more time to tell them about these things and speak to, you know,
even talking to them. I mean, even talking to us on the last 2 episodes now over the little bit of time. I know like COVID and stuff is kind of probably putting a damper on stuff on the club, but like going back once it gets into full swing, you have a lot of other stuff now just from talking to us, opening some doors about stuff to talk about with them too. And like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you know, I didn't realize I talked to you about this. And like, it's not, I was talking about it with my buddies and this and that on Specialist and nothing.
I agree.
Get them to listen to our show.
Free plug. No, but seriously, it's a shame I don't get paid to be a 90s historian. It's like I'm filled up with so much knowledge of it, and all I did was watch TV when I was a kid and go outside and play sports and everything. But like, it was a fair divide.
Darren
I didn't eat food.
the facts of life from watching the facts of life.
And that one fell to the bottom of the shift, the bottom of the pile. But yeah, it was there.
Right. So real quick, again, back to your schooling and whatnot. This is going to probably be a little bit out there, but kids these days, when they're going to school, I remember when I was in high school, especially even probably junior high school, I would carry my backpack, I'd one strap it, and I would have like a 5 subject notebook. What was the deal when we were kids? Frank, Joe, I know you had Lisa Frank folders 100%, but like the trapper keepers and the calculator built into the shit, the rulers and stuff.
How did that? What folders?
I had a pencil case.
Yeah,
I remember Trapper Keepers, but Lisa what folders?
Lisa Frank. It was like
Lisa
the
Frank.
unicorn. It's like the unicorn girly folder line.
Yeah, the really like cartoonish, fancy design folder.
I'm assuming yes, but I don't remember that name off the top of my head.
It's like the adult acid trip B kind of like what's featured on the Spencer's posters, but fit for a 9-year-old girl on her folder with a unicorn.
Gotcha. Okay.
Get it?
Get it?
The difference to me is this: kids still carry around, like Joe's saying, like they have binders, they have notebooks. Some of them have 5 subject notebooks. But what is included in the classroom experience now is, we're running out of time. They don't even copy it down anymore. They take, once again, it all comes back to this. Take a picture. And we've adapted to the times teachers will have them do that because that's where the
have to. It's what makes it easier. Yeah.
No, I don't want them to do it habitually. We have them write it primarily. But
okay.
If we're running out of time, take a quick picture.
Well, I'm saying, if the technology is there, then you might as well use it.
Just like the homework assignment. I didn't get to explain it, guys. Take a picture. They'll look at it. If that is synonymous with them doing it, then that's okay. But do I want them on their devices? No. That's the problem with remote learning now, period. But that's a whole other thing, you know?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
But yeah, there's still old school elements that exist in the classroom.
I'm a big fan of old school elements, and I think maybe it was just because when I was younger, you feel like, all right, so like book fairs. You remember book fairs when you were a kid?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they
Book
do still
fairs
have
and
like the
plant sales
Scholastic
were the shit,
book
man.
fairs.
Scholastic
They do
book
have
fairs, those were
they,
great.
they do still have
What was
those,
it when
though.
we used to get like the magazine and we used to have to go home?
Highlights.
Highlights,
Highlights
yes,
magazine.
by like Scholastic, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you would
I
have
wanted
to
Nickelodeon
choose the
magazine,
books
like,
you
commercials.
wanted.
No, that's what I'm saying. They still have that though. Like that's something that they have kept around though. That is still around
Well,
because even
actually,
like with
Frank, I
Mia
was gonna
and stuff,
ask
with her
you.
going to school, she does have stuff like that she's come home with.
I remember specifically, there would be like a book fair on like Friday, and I'd tell my mom on Monday, and she'd
Mhm.
give me like $20 or $30,
Yep.
whatever it is, and she
You
like bring
walked
me back
around.
change, and
Yep.
I go there and I get like a picture of a Ferrari or a Porsche on a poster.
Yep.
Or I buy a Goosebumps book. You know, shout out to Joe for wearing the Goosebumps shirt right now.
Facts.
That's what's up. Was that the Haunted Mask?
Haunted Mask, bro.
That's
Oh,
the old,
my
that's the good one.
That's
too.
OG.
That's the
It
good one.
is a
Honestly,
good
Night of the
one.
Living Dummy was my personal favorite, but the
Deuces.
Haunted
loved
Mask
it.
was a
Night of
good
the
one.
Living
The
Dummy
Haunted
Deuces is
Mask
my
was a
favorite
good
Goosebump book ever.
Dude.
one.
So we had these.
Sequels are gnarly.
I'm just saying, shout out to Scholastic Book Fair. That's what-
Classic book fair.
No, but you're right
He just
because
sits there on the
there was
bed,
like
he's
it was like the thing where you walked around. It was like all the different books. There was
Yes.
posters.
Yeah,
There was
man.
different
So-
keychains. There was bookmarks, like different stuff that you can get and like whatever.
They had like
I
the
remember-
mystery books that used to come with
Yes.
like little fucking
I'm trying
like
to
a
remember still.
a pad of paper with like a little invisible ink pen.
Yup, right.
Shit
You
like
only
that.
wanted it for that and not the book.
Yeah, that was it.
I will remember. I'm going to the book fair and I have like $30, right? And I'm trying to see what I want, what I don't want. I have a whole bunch of shit in my hand. I have like fucking Magic School Bus, Where the Wild Things Are, fucking Nate the Great and Amelia Bedelia, which I don't know if you guys remember, but I grew up on that shit. And a fucking ton of Goosebumps. I had almost all of the collection of Goosebumps books. I would have them all in my hand. And then when I come to checkout, I have $30. I got to bring my mother back change. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, fuck, what do I get? So I buy a couple books. I go home and I read them. And it was the shit. And then I would trade with other people who bought other shit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that,
Mhm.
but I was big on trading.
Bro,
I
I've
never
been trading
traded
since
shit.
Pogs. Are you kidding me?
Hogs was a
Oh my
big
God.
thing.
I've been trading since
I used to
Pogs,
have
bro.
the
Get
big stacks, bro.
You couldn't play Pogs with me unless you were playing for keeps. Like, let's just get
Playing
that
for
straight. You
keeps.
came
Yeah,
to my
that
front
I
stoop
used
with
to
the
get
park-
nervous, bro. I used to
Yeah.
get nervous.
If you came
Yo,
to
if
my
the
front
heavy
stoop or you
slammer,
came to the park,
You're a goner.
Yeah, that's
you're gonna
it,
kill
bro.
the competition.
bro, I had like a gold
Oh.
like slammer that was like this gold one that like on the top of it, it was like this
Timeout.
see-through thing. So when you like tilted it or whatever, it looked black, and then it was like
Oh,
the
that's
skull face
awesome.
that would appear like or whatever. It was the
Everything was
dopest
skull
thing
faces.
ever.
I had skull face
I have
slammers.
Hogs in my
yeah.
drawer
Dopest
right
thing
now.
ever.
I can't get
I
to it.
fucking are you kidding me? Pogs, play for keeps. That's
Okay.
it. That's all I'm talking about.
That's it, yo. So that's the shit. And then like we would have book fairs, we'd have plant sales. And I remember it's usually around Mother's Day. I'd always bring my mother home a plant. My mom.
Yeah, they would sell the
flowers, bro.
seeds.
My mom
I couldn't bring
hates
those home every day.
flowers.
My
And
dad-
I
my
would
dad
bring her
complained.
shit all the time.
My mom's like, "Why'd you get this for me?" I'm like, "Happy Mother's Day." You gave me this money.
Same thing, dude. I'm like, "What the fuck?"
This is what you spent my money on?
That's right.
They used to have that stuff around Father's Day too. They used to have like a little fair, and they used to have like the little toolbox sets. And it's like a little mini hammer, and I would get it from my dad. He's like, "What the fuck am I gonna do with this little hammer?"
I'm gonna beat you with it.
Listen, to wrap up, I just
Yeah, he would.
I gotta say one thing about the plant fair that I'll always remember. It's gonna take a small turn real quick. I bought my grandfather a plant one time. He was living in Brooklyn, and I bought him a plant. And in the front of Brooklyn, you know, when it's 90s, you're all sitting on a stoop and shit like that. There was maybe a 8x8 square foot of grass. And he planted my plant in the middle of the fucking grass. And that was the only thing in the entire little front stoop thing that we had. And I'll remember that forever because it was just called the Danny plant. And he did that every year that there was a plant sale. I would buy him a new one and he would purposely plant it in the middle. And I'll always remember that shit. That's funny. You know, you're sitting on the stoop and it's crazy to be brought back to when you're a kid because shit is so unreal when there's so many problems you didn't even know were existing when you were that young. Think about it, D or fucking Joe. When you were like 8 years old, what was the most craziest thing? How do I even say this? What were you worried about? You were about who's it in tag or where you're playing.
I wasn't worried about it at
Or
all.
where
I was worried
my
about
where my
missing Power
spot was gonna
Rangers.
be.
You know?
If I missed Power Rangers on the nose, I'd be like tuned in. I didn't matter. That was what I was worried about. Missing Power Rangers. God forbid. By 1 minute.
I was worried about having the whole. I was worried about catching all the Pokemon cards, man. I had to catch them all, bro.
Yeah,
That was what
honestly,
I was worried about.
once Pokemon came out on Game Boy, Pokemon Yellow, shout out.
I was hooked.
All about Pokemon Yellow
All
Squad.
about it, bro.
And yeah, same thing. I wanted to catch them all. Even now, like Pokemon, what's the one, the Pokemon Go or whatever? Still play it, bro. That's something that shout out from the 90s. Like that'll just always stick with me. Like I hope Darren, you get to bring in a Game Boy and let them play yellow, red, or blue version of Pokemon.
I showed them a boombox once, like a
Greatest.
small one. They went apeshit from that alone. It was
Bro,
crazy.
No joke. If you don't have a Game Boy to bring in, I know someone that has.
Don't even
Game
show
Boy.
up. Don't even show up.
No, I know someone that has
Don't even
like,
come.
Game Boys. That would like I'll borrow one so you could
See if
bring
you
it
can find
to-
one with the old pizza grease on it too. I'm with that.
No, like one of our boys does
I robbed that from
video
Family Guy.
game, like comic book, like trading and like this and that and like appraisals and like he works for like a
Yeah.
company.
Go for
But
it.
I know he has a couple of Game Boys and I'll be like, yo, let me borrow one of those like for like a week and like I'll let you bring it in one day to them so that way you could like
Homie, it's like hard evidence in
Gotta
the
teach
court.
them
It's like live
Pokemon.
testimony. It's like live testimony in a court in a murder trial. The more tangibles I can bring in for these kids, the better. Believe me.
But like, yeah, how do you not
pissed I
get to
gave away
play
my
the
talk boy.
two-dimensional? How do you not get to play the two-dimensional Pokemon, like walking through the world trying to like catch them all? Like that was the start. That was the start. How do you play Pokemon Go without knowing where it came from? Like that's like to me, like even when I was younger, that's why like KRS-One and this and that, like I mentioned them, but they were before my time. Like
Yeah.
I know about them because when like the Notorious and the Tupacs and like made me go back and listen to like all the earlier stuff and want to know more and like research and this and that. Like so like I'm surprised, especially with the amount of information that these kids are available to now. Why, if some of them don't go look back and see that stuff, like if you're looking at something to see where it came from and research all that stuff, because it's only going to give you more knowledge in the future. You know what I mean? Like that's
Honestly, there's a new trend happening, and maybe we'll probably have to pick it up another time. But it's these guys on YouTube. All these kids who are my high school kids' age, they're all going back and doing exactly that, making reaction videos. And there's these two twins. Twins, the new trend is the name on YouTube. They blew up in the last year from this, like legit.
Yeah.
They're on SNL and everything. Like there's more awareness going on. I think maybe COVID heightened that they wanted to go back, just like you're talking about, and now learn about everything that came before it. And everybody loves YouTube for it. They're so appreciative. So
well, not even that. Like Joe said a couple episodes back. Actually, I think it was shout out first episode again. Google is the most informative. Is Google not the most informative app,
internet,
social
Google,
platform? Like
it's all, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he said that like from the beginning, like, dude, I'm sorry, but that is one thing. Like Google is the most informative fucking thing. If you don't know something, looking it up. Even Sesame Street nowadays, my kids watch Sesame Street and it says like on the Elmo thing or like whatever with the Smarty is a smartphone. If you don't know something, what do? You look it up. That's what they tell you.
Right to your
Back in the day, we could
Google.
like, it didn't tell us that because we had to like figure out something by like, you know, looking it up in like what, like the dictionary or asking
The
someone or like, this, that, or, like,
encyclopedia, motherfucker.
you know what I mean? Like different things. Like whereas now, like these kids can
Britannica.
just use Google and look it up or YouTube or like this and that. There's so many things even now that I use on YouTube that's like, oh, how to, you know, change your oil with this, blah, blah, blah. Not that I didn't know how to do that specifically already, but like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
there's
'cause
so
everyone
many
knows how to change their oil.
informative, like, no, I'm just saying like for me in particular, but like there's so many instructional, informative videos to like I had to change a headlight on one of Karen's cars like a few years back and I didn't know how to do
was
it.
fixed,
And
by the
YouTube
way.
helped me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so Google and YouTube
Frank,
for these kids
Chris
nowadays are
Fix.
just a what?
That's what you need. Chris Fix. YouTube. Any single thing, I'm impressed. And I'm not an auto king, but auto parts all over North America. Yeah, you need him. Chris Fix. Not
All right.
Zelensky.
No,
You
but
need
I'm
him
just
too.
saying, like in general, like YouTube, Google, like exactly, like these are so informative
Take
for
it.
these kids nowadays. Like, I just hope all these kids are taking advantage of that because we didn't have that shit. You know,
They
what I
are
mean?
more
Like, it was
as of
different.
this year, I see, and it's a global trend, and that's
Yeah.
amazing. It's
I
really
wonder if
amazing.
Corona had something to do with that.
I think it did personally.
You know, like the remote learning, the stuff like that. Like we talk about it being like a deprived like thing and like where it was hard for them to learn, but maybe it did help them in certain ways and stuff too. But
All right, man. I mean, I feel like we touched a lot of 90s nostalgia on that, Darren.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you very
I know.
much for joining
Darren,
us.
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Thanks for coming back again, Darren.
Darren, we
Of course,
totally
my
appreciate you
pleasure.
coming on. I'm sure that at another point we can like get more into 90s at any point because there's so much throughout the
There's
90s
Revisit.
so
that we could
much.
throw
There's
on.
so
So
much to get.
Tap into
anytime you
surface.
want to come back, Darren, you let us know. You are more than welcome on Specialist or Nothing.
Muchas.
Thank you. Again, thank you to our
Gracias.
followers, to our friends, to anybody who's liking our page, sharing our stuff, or just following our shit. We appreciate
Hit that
it.
subscribe button, guys. YouTube, subscribe, please. Follow Facebook. Definitely.
Thank you very much. That for now, I guess wraps up 90s nostalgia. We might come back to this again because, like you said,
We're definitely
So
gonna come
much.
back to this
There's
again.
so
We got
much
so
to
much
talk
more to
about.
go over.
No,
we do. We have a lot
absolutely.
more to talk about.
I'm sure at some point in the future we'll definitely hit around to it.
Check out
but,
part 3 eventually.
For now, thank you guys again. Specialist in Nothing, as always. Go. We appreciate all the support, but go give us those likes and follows. But
Yo,
yeah.
give them a peace out real quick.
We'll see you on next episode.
What's up? What's up? Peace, peace.
Say goodbye, D.
Okay, peace out.
Okay.
Goodbye.